problems, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm here to support that. We will get involved in some event stuff as well, on the programming side, and helping bring crowds by Matt showing up and other athletes doing the same. It's vital, everybody doing their part.
Speaking of that, what evidence have you seen over the past couple of years that collaboration is indeed happening?
Yeah, it's I think that certainly within the event community it is. Like I said, I described I know that we've always on the Loud and Live side been incredibly willing to help anybody that's an event organizer. I never looked at that as competitive. Mm-hmm. There was the analogy on the CrossFit side is like we all support the Open because the Open is the catalyst for our entire space, right? It's the same for events. Like, if one of our, brothers in another country that's running an event isn't successful, I think it reflects on all of us. So I think that community has been very tight knit, stuck together, and used best practices to share to help people grow. And, there's been a different look at CrossFit overall, which has been positive, and I think they're looking for the right formula to help this thing being long-term successful. That's stuff that they have to continue to work on. And, guys like myself are there to help. Yeah. I have a unique seat now where I can probably be a little more consultative, which, I'm happy to do. That stuff has gotten incredibly better. And that has built confidence that it will continue to get better. Yeah. And it has to, and if it doesn't, it's going to be trouble. But I do have the confidence that, what's happening behind the scenes that hadn't a lot before is conversations, collaboration. And that just has to continue and grow.
And maybe a continuation of that is, in what ways do you see growth opportunities to benefit the athletes directly? Because you work with them, and you have for so long with some of the biggest names in the sport. And we're slowly starting to see some, events put up bigger prize purses, maybe new brands come into the space to offer up, good sponsorships. But I'm just kind of curious, what are some things that you think are on the horizon, at least as ways that we can professionalize this for the athletes?
Yeah, and it's another great question. I think, as athletes, their platforms helping all these things thrive points back to them eventually, right? And that's the plan. And it has to be, right? Like, how we get more, it really comes down to eyeballs. The more eyeballs that engage, whether it's through a broadcast or on site, the more brands are attracted, and the more willing they are to invest in athletes, individually, directly, and then to things that those guys participate in. And we know that, Eric and Justin know that. So it's just, and the athletes do too. I think they're in a good spot today where they've got a voice and they're saying the right things on, we're willing to promote a lot of these things, and we want to work on progress, and everybody is in a good spot today, and now the progress needs to happen, and it's going to take all of us to do it. They're what does it look like for them the next couple of years? I think what's really exciting is what's continued to grow is the relationship with brands in the space. You continue to see non-endemic brands incredibly attracted to getting some sort of taste of being involved in an event or with an athlete in the space, because it's such a incredible incubator. So that's thriving and growing. So that's really cool. And it's when it thrives and grows, the pot grows, and so does the pool. A deeper group of athletes get paid. So it's really, really fun and exciting to see that continue to grow. And then again, that trickles down to the performance type stuff. More prize money means more brands involved, more eyeballs help all of that. The more people engage the product, so the more people that participate in the Open is a very big key ingredient. Us, all of us have to point towards that. Athletes, broadcast people, it doesn't matter who you are. If the Open thrives, the rest of us thrive.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I really am, because I think it's continuing to grow and thrive, even in some of the toughest times, in our history, just as a nation, right? So it's, it's been a really cool time to be an athlete. And we're seeing more and more get rewarded for their hard work. So the work's not done. There's so much to do there, and helping this next crop thrive. And there's, but we're all, again, pointed in the right direction, trying to get there.
Yeah. As you look back on your time at Loud and Live and you get set for this next part of your professional career, what are you the most proud of that you accomplished during your time on that side of things?
Oh, man. It's really the relationships, honestly. It's that I was able to be a part of an organization that brought a lot of joy to a lot of different people. And whether it was, opportunities for people like yourself or athletes, spectators, brands, we've just seen so much growth over the last 4 years, and to be able to help facilitate that and have the trust for people to take forward steps with people like myself and an organization I was in charge with is incredibly gratifying, rewarding. I'm incredibly proud of all the relationships and trust I have. That's there's a lot of work that goes into that, and there's a lot of experience. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm proud of all the people that have been a part of everything that I've done, because a lot of people have invested a lot of their time and energy in that. Sometimes with like a lot of confusion and blur, like, hey, where are we going with that? I mean, think about this. We did the UIM thing together, and it was like, what are we doing here? Like, hey, we're just going to be active, and it's stuff like that. Like, I could get into so many micros. It's like, think about United in Movement, right? It was like a time where, if you could really place yourself back in that time, it was like bedlam, concern, chaos, lack of clarity. The world was ending. And all of us said, I happen to, have the privilege of aggregating a lot of people. All of us, including yourself, just said, you know what? Let's do this thing and do good for people and raise a bunch of money. That's the power of what we've built. That's the trust we all have in each other. And that's where all my pride is.
Yeah. Huh. It's crazy to think about like what could still happen given, like, especially reflecting on, the United Movement. Cause I was just kind of like, cause we broadcast for what, 12 hours?
It was a while, yeah.
From here. And I was like sleeping on the floor, but it was just like, you know what? Like, you talk about that entrepreneurial spirit and like the way that people rally in that regard. And we're just like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. Let's sleep on Sean's, kitchen floor and let's get after it.
Yeah.
Well,
that thing came to, I mean, you guys know you were a part of it. That thing came together in a week, and we put on a 24-hour live broadcast. And, Sean, you've been in the broadcast game longer than any of us. I know actually one of our conversations was, you're going to do what?
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, but we did, right?
Yeah.
And it was, undeniably a shit show at times, right? But in the end, what did it do? It raised $500,000, a lot of people that could use it, and we got to be present, and it's man, that's a really cool defining moment for a lot of people to look at what this is, and what we all do, and how we all kind of try to do things together.
Yeah, for sure. How nice is it that you can just drive up to Vermont now, for work stuff? I mean, I know you could before, but a little bit closer than maybe Miami.
It is awesome. I'm done with airplanes, I'll tell you. I was on one every week for years. I would fly to Miami on a Tuesday and home on a Thursday most weeks. And again, I mean, at the time when I did it, it made perfect sense, and I wouldn't change anything. But to be able to hop in my car and beat them out in Sammy's in 3 hours, I'm excited to make that my Tuesday or Thursday. Yeah. And it's a little easier when your kids call and they're like, "Dad, can you come home?" And you're like, "Shit, yeah, I can. I'll just hop in the car and come home." I'm on my time. But yeah, it's I'm really excited, and it's like and I come back to the front end of that, which is things that as I reflected, were most important to me, and people are it, right? And that's my family, Matt and Sammy. It's these athletes that we've worked with for years, and to be able to have the opportunity, and now essentially a built-in excuse that to be here a lot more is, really just what perfection is to me. I get to spend more time with my family and the people I love.
Yeah. And touching on that, because I noticed that, you had your family at Wadapalooza, and I don't know if I don't know if you had them in the past, but seeing them this year, it just felt, I don't know, maybe it was just me reading into something that wasn't there, but it felt different. Like, getting to have them there, and I, saw your son running around, jumping on the rocks, and it seemed like you were able to like enjoy and celebrate this with your family a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had, I had an idea of what was coming. Not all of it had sort of taken shape yet, and even absent that, something sort of dawned on me leading up to that, a few months, and it was a part of like all of these decisions that I was making was like, hey, me being away as much as I am is a big struggle. Parents, essentially, I got a 13 or 15-year-old that need a lot of help. Great kids, but I mean, they're needy, right? Like they just need to be parented, and she shouldered a lot of that burden. And one of the things dawned on me was like, the lack of context, I think, for what I do, because they really haven't been able to be at a whole lot of stuff. Because if they came to everything I did, they'd essentially be on the road the whole time, right? So it was, I had said to my wife a few months earlier, like, it's really important to me that you guys are there the whole time. And, I want to share this with you. And it was, there was a big moment, that I shared with my family, and my wife said something to the effect of like, wow, like I knew, what your job was, but I had no idea what you did really. And it was like, sort of a validation moment for me where it was like, okay, they get it. My kids can see my hard work, and all these people that, come and contribute to this. And, they can look back on this time and be like, my dad was away. I have friends like this now. It's like, oh, my parents traveled all the time. And it's like, now it can be like, my dad traveled all the time and did some really cool shit.
Yeah.
And that was important to me, and it was special. And it was, obviously quite possibly my last. And I wanted to make sure they experienced that. It made it perfect. Honestly, I had, you saw it, many athletes that we work with were there, Matt and Sammy. I had some other friends there that, and they always like dig in on me and come in and support. And it was just like, it was so cool to have them all there and experience that with me.
Yeah, it was funny because me and Rory were at that desk, and your son was jumping behind on the rocks behind, and I have this vivid memory because you remember when we did the Europe trip for Marston's 30th a while back, and you and your family came too, and were like helping guide everything for us. But I remember we were at the Palace of Versailles, and it felt like every 30 seconds you had to be like turn around and locate your son because he was like climbing on something and jumping on something. And he was just like spinning. And then I got to see him out on the rocks. I was like, oh yeah, oh there he is. And except he's like
growing up a little.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's like maybe
nothing's changed. Yeah, it's so funny. Like he'd come back. The nice part about their age was it was really fun because it was just sort of like, let them run, give them the access and just, hey, don't go on